Okay. And you don't have to take one of Robert's.
Okay. I've never even seen ground.
Oh wait, this is already recording. I don't want.
When we're little, we all hear a story of the little engine that could. The little engine that could is a small engine. It needs to go above this hill, and he doesn't think he could do it because he's tiny. He's a little engine, and he would just think, "I think I can. I think I can. I think I can," and he could. This leads me to my quotation: "You can't wait for inspiration. You have to go after it with a club." By Jack London. With this quotation, I interpreted that you are your own motivator. And that links to my beginning example that the little engine that could motivated himself, and he could. I'm going to talk about, and I completely agree with this quotation, I'm going to talk about Muhammad Ali, Obama's campaign, and the music industry in general. Muhammad Ali is a very, very known boxer. And he, kind of grew up like a normal person and didn't know that he would end up being such a great boxer. But he had to keep going through every fight. He couldn't give up. He had to fight until the very end of every ring. He was his own self-motivator. Yes, he had his coaches and his family backing him up in every fight, but every fight he had to keep going and keep going and keep going so he could win. Which links to my interpretation that you are your own self-motivator. He motivated himself to keep going till the very end. The next person we're going to talk about is Obama. He is the very first black president in the United States, and he had to keep going through everything, even after everyone thinking that he couldn't win because he was a minority, because he's black. But in the contrary, he ended up being the one that won, and he's been in office for 2 terms for that reason. He has to keep going aside from all the news and all the people that are angry at things that they don't, the Tea Party. He has to keep going, and he has to keep motivating himself, because it's not just himself that he's running a country, and any little move that he can do can affect not just our country but also the world. So he is his very own, which brings me to my quotation that you are your own motivator. Lastly, we're going to talk about the music industry. We have a lot of new artists, and a lot of them keep saying that you shouldn't sing, and they just kind of get discouraged along the way when they're trying to, when most of the time they're very talented musicians. The music industry is very rough to get into, but a lot of the people that can have to keep fighting for themselves, and they're their very own self-motivators. They have to let themselves know that if they really want to do something, they have to keep going forward to it. Which brings me to my interpretation that you are your own motivator. Bands and new upcoming artists have to keep motivating themselves if they really want to be successful, because all energy has to come from within to be able to project it and be able to make it. Today we talked about a lot of things. The little engine. We talked about Muhammad Ali, Obama, and the music industry. We talked about how Muhammad Ali had to keep fighting in each fight until the very end of his reign. Then we talked about Obama, and we talked about how he has to keep going because he's navigating this country. And we talked about the music industry, how artists have to keep persuading themselves that they can do it, and they are their own self-motivators. Which brings to my quotation that you can't wait for inspiration. You have to go after it with a club. Which I interpreted that you are your own motivator. And I completely agree with this quotation, because you are the only person that can make anything happen as long as you keep motivating yourself. If that little engine that could thought he couldn't, then he would have never gotten over that hill.